Hello and welcome to another edition of GrassChat's Actual Grass Chat. My name is Russ and it's brilliant to be back doing another one of these. It's not easy to get people who want to talk about their autograss life and a bit more, but we have found somebody who has been very willing to do that. And yeah, it's a great honour to introduce a man who some people might not know, but they've definitely heard and they'll have definitely seen on the Autograss tracks. It's a very warm welcome to Lewis Richards. Hello, how are you doing? Obviously, it's a very tricky time of the way things are with the pandemic and all that. So how are you doing personally in this tricky time?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. I hope you're all well there as well. Obviously, being a teacher, having to try and teach at home at the moment as well online isn't ideal with primary children. But we're all doing what we can and trying to get lessons up and doing Teams meetings with them, which is always very interesting. But yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much for asking. Yeah.
So your day job then is a junior school teacher, primary school teacher then. So what age are the kids that you currently teach then?
Currently teaching year 3, 4 and 5, so I've got a mixed year groups at the moment.
Right. So yeah, obviously it's a quite a thing for you to try and keep kids going where you are and teaching them. Is it going well? Have you found it difficult to do, or does it seem to be going quite well at the moment?
Well, we kind of had an idea that another lockdown things might have been on the way, and obviously we had the first lockdown last year that was a bit of a shock at that time, so we sort of jumped into that without knowing much of what we could do, so that was a big learning curve for us all back then. But obviously we were a little bit more prepared this time. We had those systems in place, and obviously during our lessons in September, there was always that idea that something else might come during the winter months. So we were spending a lot of time sort of practicing using the different technologies that we need to be using with the children at home now. So yeah, fair play, they've picked it up really quickly, and those who were able to take part are doing so. Some need a bit of an extra push, and I'm sure some parents are finding it difficult as well to motivate the kids at home, but no, fair play, they're doing really well.
Good. So what is it you teach then, or do you teach a variety of things being at that level of school?
Well, being primary school, we have to be of a jack of all trades really. So teach all lessons. Normally I teach in the Welsh stream, so that's sort of talking Welsh all day, every day to the children. Their parents have chosen to put them in the Welsh stream then. But the last 2 years I've actually been teaching in the English stream, which has been a bit of a change up. So I've been teaching, I think it's 14 years now, something like that, 15 years maybe. And it's the first time I've really been teaching in the English stream for any length of time anyway. So it's been interesting.
So for the kids to actually learn Welsh, obviously it's quite easy for us being English. We learn English. We just learn to talk better. Is it easy for the children to pick up actual Welsh when they're learning, or do they steer naturally to the English side?
Well, some children will be in your situation in Wales where they've grown up in Welsh families, and Welsh is their first language anyway, so that's all they've heard and spoken since learning to speak. But obviously there's a large majority of children in Welsh schools whose parents have just chosen the Welsh education for them to learn Welsh, and they're immersed in it then from nursery age really. So I was the same. I didn't start learning Welsh properly really until I started school, and now managed to make a career out of it. And Welsh, I class Welsh and English both in my first languages really now.
Oh, brilliant! So we're going to learn hopefully quite a bit more about you tonight. That's what this is all about. Primarily your autograss life. We may dip into one or two side streets on what else you enjoy doing, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But as always, when we start these little chats, we'd like to go right back to the beginning for you. I mean, you expressed quite a lot of your memories and things that you've achieved in the sport in a book which mine and your good friend has done, Mr. Gareth Jones, the 40 Years of Teifi, which if there are still any available, then it's definitely worth a look at. But we're just going to look at a little bit more on some of those factors. But going right back to the beginning, you explained that you, like many people, so only a select few actually find their way into the sport, but you were more born into it with your dad, Anthony. He was a racer back in the day. Do you know do you have any memories, or have you seen anything to actually look through of of your dad when he was autograss racing. You mentioned that he was in the 70s and the 80s, so it was more the jalopy racing side rather than actual autograss side, but obviously that's what it evolved from. But yeah, did your dad keep anything for you to actually look at back, or was you able to actually witness it in person at a young age?
Yeah, I think it was in 87, I think, that he stopped. And obviously I was born in 82, so I was about 5 when he actually stopped. But I got some very vague early memories of going to the racing when he was still racing. But obviously he was into the racing as well because of his sister Annette was married to Dougie Brown as well. So there was the link there, and they were racing a long time before I was born. I think my father and Doug used to share a car at one point as well, and in the specials. I think they were class 7s back then before the Autograss came in, and the classes changed about a little bit. But yeah, so I've got old pictures, and I've managed to find a lot of the old pictures as well through Annette and Doug and my dad's old pictures as well that I've managed to put now on the roof of the Mini as the family's racing throughout the years. So I've got like a collage of those across the top of the but yeah, as for actual memories of my dad racing, not so many perhaps. I got one where him and Viv Cole, another legend in class 3 now, is still going. They used to have a great few battles back in the day, and I remember one corner where my dad was coming around and he was nearly tipped over, and Viv Cole was just behind him. And on the picture that we've got, it's as if it was Viv with the pushing, but I don't think it was actually, looking back.
Yeah. So it might be one photo, but what a photo to have. It's certainly one to keep, and I'm sure it's one which would have brought back memories for your dad anyway. Looking at that, so that was going to be my next thing. I mean, obviously there are some very well-known autograss families, and it looks like part of your extended family fits into that category, being Dougie and Annette Brown. Both very, very successful in the 80s side of autograss racing. Dougie was a national champion of champions winner and a Class 8 national champion in 91, and Annette won 3 titles from what I could find out in 86, 87 and 90. Have you watched back any of that footage? I know there is some of it out there. I've got definitely the 91 nationals on DVD to see, but have you watched back any of that? And what did you think how autograss looked back then? Would it have been a time, if obviously you could relive a time, would you have liked to have been there to relive it or witness it firsthand?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Well, the thing is, even though my dad finished racing in 87, we still had the links there because of the family. So we did used to go and watch quite often anyway, and I was a big Boss Hog fan back in the day. But yeah, I've got lots and lots of memories of actually just going to the racing to watch, even though my dad wasn't racing. Obviously going to see Doug and Annette and the extended family from that side as well. And obviously Doug and Annette's children, Steve and Phil, used to race as well. So when they were in the juniors, we used to go and support them as well. It was great to go at any opportunity. So yeah, I've had a foot in autograss all my life, really, even though we didn't go very often after my dad finished. And I always remember when I passed my own driving test to be able to drive on the road, I was adamant that I was going to start going to watch a bit more because my dad had sort of lost interest by that point.
Right.
So he didn't really go to watch any of the racing as I was getting older. And there was a nationals down in Tenby, I think it was. It must have been about 2001, 2002. I'm absolutely awful with dates, as you'll find out as we go on. And my grandfather, who was still alive then, he came down with me in the car. And it was down to one of the tracks down near Lamphy, in that area anyway.
Yeah.
And those bad roads down the country roads there.
Oh,
this lorry came down this hill, and it had slammed on its brakes because we were coming up the hill. And it went slided, and it nearly came into us. And that's another little story that I remember from back in the day. But yeah, like you said, I got lots of good memories of still going to watch the racing and seeing how the sport has developed over the years as well. And growing up, sort of seeing how things were developing. I always wanted to be in Class 7. It was always going to be rear-wheel drive, but Class 7 was the pinnacle for me back in the day.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the English folks do feel rather jealous of obviously like the 80s and early 90s, because you had so many people who have classed as heroes or so many top stars in Wales. I mean, you mentioned the man you is picked as your hero, which a lot of people do, was Jeff Hogg, who we featured on our daily numbers just a few days ago. But you also had the likes of Viv Cole, Terry Brown, and many others who could inspire the next generations in Wales. So it must have been absolutely mesmerising to watch in those early days, seeing all these big characters who would obviously head the way. But what was it about Boss Hogg then that sort of mesmerised you? I mean, I know you mentioned you've got a photo somewhere of you sat on his car,
Yeah, that's right.
which was obviously every kid's dream to do, sit on or in your favourite car growing up. So what was it about Boss Hogg then that obviously caught your eye?
I don't know what it was back in the day. I think he was obviously very successful. And, if you grew up in the sport yourself, maybe, and others as well, the sound of the cars back then as well, especially those sevens, used to tear up the track, and the tens. I don't know, it just used to go through you, And I think it's just the thrill of all that and the excitement. And obviously, all, like you were mentioning, a lot of those races had a lot of supporters, and especially the gang that we used to go about with, they'd all be shouting for those sorts of people. So you sort of get drawn into that then as well yourself, don't you? So I think you tend to fixate then on one or two. I think he had such an identifiable car as well. For somebody as young as I was back then, it was easy to pick out as well. So maybe that was a part of it as well. But
Yeah, I mean, it was a very simple but iconic colour scheme on the car. I mean, the numbers were all in big lettering, and it had that massive Boss name on the front. So obviously it was the car you could pick out from anywhere on the site, really. So, but yeah, I do feel jealous of the people like yourself got to grow up and watch. Not saying that people over here weren't as good, because we definitely had some excellent talents as well. But there were, in the 80s and the early 90s, there were some amazing people who you got to watch racing every week. But as you said, unfortunately, you didn't get to go to watch racing as much when your dad stopped. So between your dad stopping, it was probably because school was key for you. So he wanted you to go to school first and then enjoy yourself after. But it didn't keep you away when you could go back. As you say, you went back to watch at the Nationals because obviously it was close to home. And that obviously sparked an interest straight away for you to go racing and actually do it for the first time and take part. But you started the modest way. You went Class 1 at first for a couple of years. Did you just find a car and buy it, or did you get somebody to build one? Did you look at building one yourself? And do you remember how it went? Your first memories of actually competing in an Autograss race? How was that?
Yeah, the first time I actually competed was in a friend's car. Dalton Thomas, Stuart Thomas's son. Well, we were close friends, still are now, and back in the day he was in the juniors, and it was one of those occasions where I decided I wanted to drive to one of the meetings. And on this time, my father said he wanted to come for a spin as well, and my younger brother Callum did. So we went up, I think it was to Border Counties, and just out of the blue, Dalton said to me, and he was still in the junior, so between 14 and 16 probably back then, "Do you want to spin in my car or what?" And I went, well, I better check with the old man first. So I went and spoke to him, and he said, "Oh, Jesus," he said, "Look, have a go, just get it out of your system, but for God's sake, don't get hooked and don't go buying a car or anything stupid." I said, "Nah, I just want to get it out of my system to see what it's like." Yeah. So I went and spoke to Dalton. I said, "Look, now you need to speak to your father first." So we spoke to Stuart, and he said, "Yeah, well, it's all right, it's up to you." And as soon as I sat in the car, well, I thought, yeah, I've always wanted to do this, and it just felt quite natural, actually, because I'd obviously grown up with the cars and been in them all over the years. Yeah. And I did absolutely appallingly, don't get me wrong, but I absolutely enjoyed that first experience down in Border Counties, thanks to Dalton and his family for the spin. But obviously, back to what the old man said, he said, "Don't get hooked, don't go wanting a car." And the old cog started turning then after it actually had a go. And Callum, my younger brother, was coming up to 14 at the time. And we just kept on talking about it, and he was expressing a little bit of an interest maybe of joining in the juniors as well. So the sensible thing to do back then was just to get a Class 1 for me to go in the men's and for him to go into the juniors. And the old man...
Why your dad headbutted the wall.
Yeah, this is it. I'm not sure Doug was too impressed either, because Doug has been there from the start helping us out as well. So I think once he saw there was another Mini coming into the fold, he could imagine all the panel damage and things that were coming along the way as well. But yeah...
No, brilliant. So it's one of those, isn't it? It's like anything. If you try and do something, it soon grabs you, and yeah, there you are. And closing on 20 years now later, you're still at it. and enjoying it, I'm sure, all the same. So obviously Class 1 was just that first stepping stone. You wanted to be in rear wheel drive. That's what caught your eye. You said Class 7, but you didn't go that way. And I think 2006 you made the move to Class 5, which is where you remain today, unless something has happened over this winter and there's now a change. But it's where you've been today, and since 2006. What made you choose Class 5 then at that time, especially seeing as how your eyes were a 7? I'm guessing obviously there was a reason that didn't happen, but what was it about Class 5 that thought, no, that's the class I want to go in, that's the class which is going to suit me?
Yeah, I can't really remember, to be honest with you. I think there was a big bass run, I think, down in, I think it was PAC possibly one year. And it was around the time, I think, one or two of the minis started coming in. I think Watson had brought his mini out, one of his first minis possibly. And I remember they caught my eye that weekend. Coming out of Class 1 wasn't a straightaway decision. It was just a case that Callum, my brother, had sort of turned 16. He'd sort of lost a bit of the interest as well. And I wasn't going to keep sort of ploughing money into the car for him to be having half the car in the men's as well. So we came to an arrangement between us, and I just bought the car off him, sort of his share of the car. Yeah. And knew that I wanted to get out of Class 1 anyway. And yeah, I think it was those Class 5s in that Bass round possibly back then that caught my eye more than anything. And having gone back down to see sort of smaller club meetings in PAC and seeing the 5s go in, I'm thinking, yeah, that's something feasible. And at the time I was thinking 7 was probably out of reach sort of financially as well. Yeah. So yeah, started off very, very modestly in the old Ford K in Class 5.
Yes, yeah, which didn't go too badly.
At the beginning it did.
What did you think then when you jumped into the Class 5? What, like the contrast of compared to the modest Class 1? And what did you think to the competition when you was actually with them? Did it open your eyes a bit more, or you didn't give up, obviously, because you stuck with it for these years? So, a bit like when we spoke to Michaela in the last video, really. You're one of those who seems to take progressive steps, and you thought, right, well, I'm not going to win the first time out, but I want to get the experience, and I want to build up, and I want to eventually make my way to start challenging those who I'm racing with. But yeah, so what did you think initially to Class 5? Did you certainly didn't think it was a mistake joining them, but yeah, no. What were your initial impressions?
Well, I'll go back to a point you made during your little intro there. I was definitely not with the Class 5s when I first started joining Class 5. I was probably about a lap behind sort of the last of the car in front of me. Very, very modest start with the 5 really. Sort of bought the shell and the chassis. It was an ex-Grasby chassis car. Anyway, I can't remember the name of the guy who I bought it off though, so it had gone to somebody else and then I bought it off him, just the rolling chassis. And then we had an old Vauxhall just to put in, didn't even really have proper carbs and everything on it. We got it going just to get the engine running, and it was smoking like a trooper. And we went up to the old Forest of Dean track. I'm not sure if you'd ever been to that track.
No.
Sort of on a good bank like this. And my dad, being my dad, said, I better take the car out first now. You might not like it. You might not be able to drive it. I'll just go and see that everything's okay for it to come around. And so he took it out in the very first meeting. And then in the first race, and then I had a go in the second heat. And I know it wasn't fast. It wasn't the quickest 5 by a long chalk, but I absolutely loved it from the off, really. And,
was it faster than the Class 1?
Well, I'm not even sure it was, to be fair. So I was quite happy with the speed of it. But yeah, like you said, then from there, really small steps every year then, just to build up to what I've actually got now. And, progressed as and when we could. And without the help of the family, Doug and Steve, well, their expertise and knowledge of what to do with the cars to get them to go a bit better. I just wish I had a deeper pocket to fulfill what they'd like to do altogether, but I just do it in increments, bit by bit.
Yeah. But no, as I say, it didn't knock you back too far. It didn't put you off. You stuck at it. You kept going, and eventually, obviously, you started to improve. But you mentioned, obviously, about your dad getting drawn back into it just briefly. he then, from what you mentioned in the book, he then stepped into expert mode, and you put down that he did seem to have a comment and opinion on every race you had. Did you take it on board, or did you think, no, Dad, just leave me alone, let me do it?
Well, obviously up front it would obviously be, oh God, leave me alone, you know, I'll do it my way. But obviously when people have been racing for so long, like him, Doug and Annette and Steve and all the family really, you know, although up front you maybe don't want to show that you're taking on their advice, deep down you're sort of internally you're processing it and you're thinking, yeah, maybe I should just make a little note of that up here and try to remember.
Yeah. So, did some of it work then? Some of it help, obviously. But yeah, a lot of it was just embarrassing. Dad, please let me get on with it. And yeah, I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, a lot of things like get all that. I won't use the word. Get all the muck out of the car. We wouldn't drive around with 20 bags of sugar with you, so get all that out of the car as well. Then.
My dad was
and all this, but that doesn't always work.
Unfortunately, though, we do have to talk about a couple of one more than the other. You've had a couple of low points. Well, not really low because you sort of went up, then down, then up, then down. We're talking about that. You have rolled over a couple of times, unfortunately. One which you did mention. We think it was 2011 at your home Basground at PAC. You ended up getting rolled over. Apparently, it wasn't your fault. But it was quite. I think it's the biggest incident that you've had out of the three rolls that you expressed on. What do you remember from that? If you would like to explain, and because when you have if you're not used to having a sudden incident like that, what did you feel? How did you feel about it? Was it a shock? Was it a panic? Was it just wondering what on earth had happened? So yeah, over to you. What actually happened that unfortunate day?
I remember it quite vividly, really, because obviously it was this, like you said, the biggest role that I've had. It wasn't a spectacular role by a long way, really, from what other people have had. But yeah, I remember I had an appalling start out in grid 8, I think. And then we went up the straight and all the others are sort of gone. But I knew they'd watered on the inside. And then I thought, well, if I try and stick on the outside on the drier line, I might be able to carry a bit more speed around the corner than everybody else. And that was paying off beautifully. And then obviously, as I was coming around the outside, everybody else hit the wet. There was a bit of a melee in between, in the middle, and then somebody hit somebody else came out, and I was on full throttle coming around the outside. They hit the front of my car, and obviously I was on the outside, so I was too close to the fence by that point to actually do anything about it. I was just as people always say, a bit of a cliche, maybe I was just a passenger.
Yeah.
And then just did a bit of a cartwheel and a flip and a turnover, and yeah, that was that.
Yeah. But the wonderful thing about Autograss is that apparently you had quite a lot of help on hand to try and get the poor car back into a raceable state, probably before you'd even got back out of the ambulance and back to the pit. That's something which can be an amazing feeling, can't it? You know, when you're not expecting something like this, you're going to walk back to the car and you're going to drown your sorrows. But there's always somebody there ready to think, no, this can go again. We'll do our best. We'll get it up and running. But apparently, I'm not sure if it did actually pay off in the end, and you had to park the car.
I remember there was a load of people who offered help, as it always is. You know, within the sport, everybody knows the same. If you have an incident like that, there's always somebody there who's willing to give you a hand to get it sorted and get you back out. I think that weekend, I'd never ever won a Bass sort of heat at all. But I think that weekend on the Saturday, I'd actually won a heat. So obviously people were even more keen then to try and get me back out. So I think I had a third and a first then, which was unheard of for me. And then they wanted me to try and get out in that third heat then to try and make the final. But I think Jordan Jones, you won't remember me saying that he was one of the most keen. He was pushing, come on, we got to get it out. It was on the trailer. We just sort of dropped it on the trailer or pushed it on. And I said, look, we'll leave it there. Look at the state of the blinking thing. So yeah, unfortunately, that meeting came to an end a little bit too abruptly. But everybody was there willing to try and do something. But no, it was past help that day, unfortunately.
That's a shame, though, isn't it? Especially when you go from a high, like we're doing really well this weekend. We could actually get something out of it, and then it ends all of a sudden. But yeah, you mentioned a name there, Jordan Jones. In the little write-up that you did before, you mentioned Jordan and Gareth Jones, two key people who travel around with you and have done for many years. I take it the social side and being around good mates is something you enjoy at Autograss as much
always
as
well behaved. Yeah, always well behaved. Yeah.
You mentioned about a scunny baz round. You wasn't going to be able to travel up until very late and stroke early hours.
Yeah.
And I think Gareth was going to be the man to keep prodding you to keep you away. But what was it? I think Jordan was already at the track, wasn't he? I think he was rather welcoming when you got there.
Well, he was very happy anyway. Let's put it like that. Yeah, I think with the music and stuff that I always do with work and whatever, I had a concert or something on the Friday night. Yeah. So I couldn't leave obviously till quite late after the concert. I think Gareth also had something else on during the evening, so he said, would it be okay to have a lift up? And sort of, it was obviously a bonus to have somebody in the van as well. So Gar had a lift up with me, but I don't think we actually arrived there. It must have been about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously expecting everything to be really quiet and nobody about, but the lights were in the distance, so we could see you getting close. We pulled in, obviously in Scunny there, you got the sort of the roadway, also the air track was to get into it. And lo and behold, there was Jordan cursing us because we were so late arriving. He had to drink even more just to keep himself going until we arrived. And that was that. So from 2 o'clock to about 6 o'clock, we were just, well, I didn't drink because I was obviously having the scrutiny about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
We just had, we were up all night then, just walking around and having a chat or whatever. But yeah, he didn't forgive us for arriving so late because he obviously had to drink more then, didn't he?
But you enjoy the social side then, I take it, and well, we all do, don't we? And unfortunately, that we're sort of missing that more at the moment than missing the actual racing itself, aren't we? With this difficult time, obviously we've not been able to see good friends and close family, even close family on some occasions. But yeah, hopefully, obviously, one day soon we'll get to all do that, and we'll get to create more stories, whether we want to remember them or not.
Or can.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can. Yeah. So, as we said, you started basically as a bit of a fan of the sport. You took modest steps, you gradually progressed. With it though, no disrespect, but you do take it for the enjoyment of it as well. So as long as you go out, you enjoy your race, you get the result as well, that's a great bonus. But you do seem like you really enjoy the racing, whether it goes well or not, which some people tend to not do anymore, which is a shame. But yeah, you do seem to enjoy it. But a first year where you really did achieve something was 2013 at the National Championships, because probably surprising to yourself, you actually made the national final that year. Yeah. I was 9th. I was gutted.
Oh no!
Yeah,
so I was so many times.
Yeah, I was 9th that year because we had an excellent Saturday. It was really dry, and then it rained practically all day Sunday. But yeah, where did you, after your third heat, did you think that you had a chance to make in the final, or was it a bit of a shock, a bit of a surprise?
I knew I'd done okay in the heats because I think, again, not very often I'd win sort of a race in a big meeting, but I'd happened to get a win in one of the heats for that weekend. And I knew I'd had about a third, I think, and maybe a second as well. So I knew it was there or thereabouts, but obviously you never really know until all the points are in and you know what everybody else has done. So yeah, I was crossing everything and hoping I was going to make it. And I remember, I think it was with Mr. Smith down in St. Neots. I think we were both chuffed to have made the final together, and we were both on edge, thinking, have we made it? Have we not? And we both made it in. I think it was definitely my first final. I'm not sure if it was his as well. But as you said, it absolutely tipped it down that weekend, and unfortunately, the finals, definitely in my case, the final was ruined because the goggles had to come off. I was in the middle of the track. I couldn't see anything. And it would be nice to have actually had a good race of it from a personal perspective. But obviously, I think it was Graham Cleal who'd won the Nationals that year for the Zoom Class 5. And all credit to him for being able to drive in those conditions, because it was like a skating rink and a bog. And everything in between, it was just bad conditions. And I remember actually Gareth was actually marshalling on one of the entries into the start turn. And the tyres and the cones had all been wiped out completely. So I think we were all using the Marshall post where Gareth was as sort of our turning point. And I remember going past him, sort of goggles off or whatever, barely able to see. And I just remember going like this, stay in. Trying to call me in. I thought, Jesus, I didn't even know where I was on the track. I didn't know what position.
So I take it you're not a fan of wet weather racing then?
Not a huge fan, I got to say. No, and I actually damaged my eyes in that meeting from the muck and everything that had gone in there, so I couldn't drive home that night. So luckily, I think it was Steve, my cousin, had actually come up to the meeting as well. He had to drive my van and towed me home that night because I couldn't open my eyes.
Wow. Was you proud of your achievements that weekend then, or was you more obviously gutted because of the weather that it prevented you from possibly achieving better, or was you just initially just very happy to obviously be in that company of top 8 in the class?
Oh, definitely, because that was unheard of. I would never, I wouldn't make BAS finals or other championship finals really. Obviously, like you were saying, just built it up over the years. So obviously the Cinquecento, which I had at that point, was coming together and making little advances with that. And having that class win then on the Saturday obviously puts you on a bit of a high, so you expect good things. And you're in with that shout maybe of maybe getting into the final, but never really having the ambition. Well, always having the ambition, but not the actual belief that it's going to happen, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So for it to actually happen then, and I was really, really pleased because obviously it was the first time for it to happen, and it had never come before. So I was really, really chuffed about that. But obviously, like you say, a little bit disappointed then with how it went in the final, but that's the way it goes, isn't it?
yeah, but obviously you sort of then reflect back on the steps that you've taken. You think, yeah, we're suddenly now we're in this group, and did you feel like you belonged in that group? Again, no disrespect to that, but like because it would take a few more years, and then you would get back into that elite number again. 2016, I think it was. You would reach the heights of a national final once again. Did that feel better than the first time making it through? And you'd end up finishing 4th. So again, that's an ambition for every driver to receive a national trophy. So, but overall, did that weekend feel any different to a few years before, or did you have, because of more experience, more confidence going into it?
It was a strange one really, because I remember for some reason or other at the beginning of that season, Doug does a load of work for me with the car, with helping to develop the engine and stuff like that. And like I was saying earlier, with him and Steve, with their input, I've obviously just developed the car over the years. But for some reason, the beginning of 2016, I think it was, that Doug said, your car's getting there now. He said, it's got to be up there with some of the quickest in 5. And personally, I was thinking, well, I don't see it much different really, because you've made such slow progress, bit by bit. Obviously, you tend not to notice possibly the gains that you're making. But that weekend sort of went to the Nationals with no real expectations, and obviously hoping to make the final again. But I remember sitting on the line in the first heat, and I think I was paired with the gaffer, and obviously thinking, oh God, I've got not much hope here of winning with a few of the other cars that were in the heat as well. And as we were revving to go off the line, something happened to my clutch, and luckily they'd realised, so they sort of stopped sort of winding us up for the start, and they came to push me back. And as they pushed me back, sort of the gears released, but I didn't have a clutch pedal anymore. I thought, oh, that's the end of the weekend straight away. Yeah. But it was just about grasping right down the very bottom of the pedal, and I just said, oh, they'll just have to go, and I'll have to just get a toe off or something. But there was just something in my head saying, oh, don't give up now, have another bash at it. So as they were winding us up, I was ready with the gear stick. Yeah. She had a ram in the first gear, and she shot off the line, and I ended up winning the blinking race. So from that point on, I won the first heat. There were a few reruns for the second, and I won the second heat. So by the end of the Saturday, I'd gone from thinking I wasn't even going to be able to start the first heat to finishing top qualifier by the Saturday night, which for me put me on cloud 9, because that is like, I never, ever, ever thought that would come for me. But yeah, so finishing top qualifier the Saturday night, and then obviously having that hope, thinking, as long as I can finish in a half decent position on the third heat, there's that chance I might make the final again, and then whatever happens, isn't it? And then, like you said, managed to scrape a 4th, and couldn't believe it. I was absolutely over the moon.
I was going to say, did you? Was you more? I'm assuming that because of 2013 being in such poor conditions, you was more geared up for the final this time around on a dry track and that. So you thought, like, yeah, I've got a chance for this. Or did you feel any pressure? Or did you have the real confidence going in because you felt it was your time to achieve?
No, not at all. I was sitting on the line, and I'm one of those, unfortunately, that sits there thinking, if I could have a 7th or a 6th or maybe a 5th here, I'll be happy now. Thinking of all the other cars, well-established Class 5 racers, and it was absolutely great to be amongst them. Luke was also there, Luke Jenkins, who I've dabbled with loads down in South Wales, had made the final as well. Yeah. And as it happened then, by the end, we'd finished, he'd had a 2nd and I was 4th. I was absolutely bouncing. I ran over to his car. I was like, yeah, we did it, boy, 2 top 4s for the South Wales. And yeah, it was an awesome feeling, I got to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what, not everybody gets to do it, but what did it feel like actually at that presentation, standing on the step and receiving a trophy? I suppose it's obviously elation, relief, and that for hard work that's gone into it over the years to reach that step. Because as we said, not everybody gets there. I mean, obviously everybody wants to win, but just being in the finals enough for some. But yeah, achieving a trophy, it's one of those obviously behind you, I assume.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, what did it feel like? Obviously, seeing that crowd of people at the presentation, looking at you and that, and yeah, supporting what you've achieved. It must be a great thing.
I've been to a few nationals over the years, and sometimes sort of by the time it comes to the presentation, sometimes it's sort of petered down depending on how much of the crowd has stayed behind. So I didn't really know what to expect, obviously. And it was at Stroud, and they'd put on this massive sort of trailer with the podium and everything on there, and made a real top-notch job of it. So we sort of walked over, and obviously when you called up, then I don't know, it's just an awesome feeling, and it's like a thank you as well, because my family put so much effort into the car and supports me so much. It was like a bit of a nod to them as well to say thank you and look, we're making progress as well with the car, and all the effort and time that we put into it over the years is starting to pay off as well.
Yeah. So obviously that elation and happiness from what you've achieved, that obviously carries on for quite a long time. But then we go to a year later, 2017. Did you go into that Nationals then feeling pressure because you was in the final the year before? And you felt like you had to, you're now at a step which you don't want to drop, you don't want to step off, you want to climb even higher. So did you feel any pressure going into the following Nationals? Because you went and excelled even further. I know it wasn't quite the step which everybody wants, but you ended up an excellent 2nd place. So that must have, even compared to 4th the year before, that must have been absolutely mega. So what were your thoughts going in the following year, and then obviously by the end of the final when you crossed that line?
I think probably going into the 2017 at Cwmdi, I was probably still not on anybody's sort of radar, so to speak, regarding sort of finals or trophy positions, having not really sort of performed very well consistently, I suppose. And because of that, you sort of go in with your own little self-doubts as well then, don't you? I knew the car was getting there, and I was getting better at driving it as well, I suppose. But you always go onto that first line, and you've got to have luck, haven't you? And it's the same in any race meeting. To make the final, you've got to have luck on your side in the heats. And then obviously if you can get into the final, you have to have a massive amount of luck then to sort of get into those battling positions for the top 4. But I remember, again, how, it's just one of those things. Obviously things clicked on the Saturday. I think I had 2 wins again on the Saturday. And lo and behold, was top qualifier, I think, or one of, for going into the Sunday. And again, just being conscious of not screwing up the 3rd heat and just doing enough then to get into the final. And I remember, I think it was me and Ben Reid had a good battle then in the 3rd heat. But I was trying not to spoil it for either of us, really, sort of not getting too close as well. Not that I could get very close, but, I was getting as close as I could and then just not pushing it too much so as to spin out or hit cones or something like that. Because you just want to make sure you finish the race to get enough points then to push yourself into the final. And then the final came, and obviously made the final, and I think it was 5 reruns or 6 reruns.
Yes, yeah, certainly a race of attrition.
It was, and it was awesome because I think I had 14 races that weekend between all of the finals. And I remember some people saying, you should be changing your tyres now for the final, get some fresh rubber on for the finals. And I don't know, didn't really want to sort of fork out for another 100 odd quid because of the final, because I'm not one for splashing out that much on tyres and things. And
Not
then,
even for the national final.
I know, don't know. I'm going to have abuse about this again, you watch. But every one of those races before the actual final rerun, it was awesome. Battling with Ben Reid, battling with Ryan Jones, and going for the top position, the final, going for that win. And I just never thought, building up with the Class 5 over the years, I just never thought I'd be in that sort of position. And I still enjoy now watching those videos back and seeing the battles that we had in those reruns. And then obviously the final rerun, there was only 4 of us left, unfortunately. I think it was me, Jenny Shepherd, Ryan Jones, and then John Wilde. And John Wilde just out of that first or second corner. And once he was away, he was gone then. And me and Jenny, I think, had a bit of a battle for second and third for a bit. And then, just things settled down. And unfortunately, it wasn't one of those epic races. I think if one of the other reruns had finished, it would have been a really good watch and a really good buzz. It just sort of... we just got through it in the end because there was only 4 of us and we were quite spread out around the track by the end of it.
Yeah. But again, at the end of the weekend, I don't know. I mean, second place, you can be in 2 modes, can't you? Yeah. Because you was in contention through all those race attempts to get on the top step. But yeah, second. So obviously, you must have been pleased because it's adding something to it and it's continued progression. But yeah, must still be a bit bittersweet, obviously, because nobody wants the number 2 trophy. But I'm sure you're still proud of it.
Oh, definitely, 100%. Like I said, going back to the 2016, if somebody had told me before 2016 that I'd have a 4th in 2016 and then improve it with a 2nd in 2017, I wouldn't have believed them. So, even going into 2017, didn't think, just knowing deep down you've got to have a hell of a lot of luck to get into the final. And then when you're in there, anything can happen, isn't it? But, to have had second that year again was phenomenal. I was absolutely over the moon, of course, yeah.
Good. Stepping away from nationals, over the past few years, actually, you're wearing the shirt, a very supportive member of the UK Autograss Championships, something which you obviously thoroughly enjoy racing at. You've had some success there as well. What do you think to the overall competition, though, in Class 5 at the UK? Because obviously, previously, before that championship started, you had raced at Baz Rounds. But does the UK Championship, that's obviously something which you very much enjoy? Is it the structure of the event, or are there any other reasons?
I think it's a mixture of things, really. I think at the beginning, when the UK started, I just mixed and matched, really, because at that time there wasn't the pre-entry ideas and things like this. So I tended just to go to whichever meeting was closest at the beginning. And then a few friends sort of started going consistently more to the UKs, and you tend to sort of follow the crowd then wherever he's going. That was the main reason at the beginning, I think, because that was where our sort of core group was actually going. And then obviously the idea of the pre-registration came in for the UK, and I think for the BAS as well, I think. And it was just a case of deciding then which one I preferred to do at that time. And it was where the locations of the meetings were, with the BAS being in Ireland sometimes. With the BAS weekend, if it's a BAS weekend for Ireland, then I have to count that out definitely anyway, due to work, because obviously being a teacher, yes, we get holidays all the time, I suppose, but we can't just book when we want off either then, so that's the sort of the negative side of that then as well. Yeah. So that's a sort of factor in the decision making there. But I do like the UK, and there's always a good crack, and I suppose it's the same with whichever class you're racing in whichever championship. There's a good bunch there in Class 5, and we have a good crack there. Good competition as well. Obviously, there's this debate, obviously, isn't there, which is the better championship regarding the sort of cars that go, I think.
Yeah.
I think if you were to count sort of national qualifiers and things like that, I suppose you would have more of those in the BAS rounds than you'd have at the UK rounds. But there's a good bunch of cars in the UK championships as well. And it's great to race against them sort of in the different rounds around the country as well, and catching up now and again.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, you've had some good showings in the championships, taking a third in class. at the end of the championships. I can't remember what year it was, but you have taken a top 3 there. And also over the past couple of years, I think you've stated that the favourite round that you enjoyed was at Cambridge, a venue which the championships hadn't visited before, and I don't think you would have visited either. Obviously, with being where you are geographically. What was it about that round then? How come everything sort of clicked into place for the weekend, and you ended up having a clean sweep of class wins? And an enjoyable Champion of Champions race as well. But what was it about that track which seemed to enjoy for yourself? Because it can't be like any other tracks near home.
No, like you said, something just seemed to click there. I think I like a track where you can drive hard and drive flat out. I'm not really accomplished at all on polished tracks or these sort of hard packed tracks where you've got to use your head a little bit more, sort of how you drive around the corners, slower is faster and all that, but that sort of doesn't compute with me for some reason. I'm getting better, but yeah. But on Cambridge, it was one of those tracks where you could go for it, and you could drive hard all around the track wherever you chose to drive, which is sort of the track that I like, really. Yeah, it just seemed to suit me, seemed to suit the car. Yeah, and I went back again there just to I think it was an East Anglian Open then, maybe the year later, just because I had such a welcome there as well. We had a welcome there during the UK. And yeah, a few of us planned to go back there for the East Anglian. But yeah, to have the clean sweep, which I'd never, ever, ever done anywhere in any championship or even a club meeting anywhere, I don't think. So yeah, to have achieved that was a real buzz, I got to say.
Good. I mean, it's always great when you do have those meetings, but you then get home and you think, why don't that happen every weekend?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, that's racing for you. Well, I mean, I've done UK rounds. I was there at the very beginning. I did the first year, and I did not last year, the year before as well. It's a very strong championship support-wise. I mean, the rounds are always full. And the word is that obviously when we get back up and running again and we can have these events again, but it sounds like quite a number of clubs want to host rounds also. I mean, are there any venues out there that you would like to visit, especially on a UK championship round? Is there anywhere you've not been yet you would like to obviously make the travels to?
Yeah, not sure really. Unless you've been there already to know what it's like. I suppose you don't know if it's gonna sort of suit you as well. I'm not one of these that can go to any track and it'll be spot on for me, if you know what I mean. I know a lot of these the top boys in the sport can go to any track and they'll perform and they'll get good results everywhere, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know. I've enjoyed the tracks that we've had so far, and like I say, personally, I prefer sort of a looser track where you can maybe sort of drive that much harder, sort of going for it all the way around the track. But yeah, the tracks that we've been on sort of in recent times, I've thoroughly enjoyed as well. And like you said, there's more and more sort of clubs showing an interest to put on these meetings as well, which is good. Good.
Well, it shows obviously a good future for the championships. I mean, I've always enjoyed racing in the UK championships as well. I enjoy any meeting as long as I'm not having to fix the car, but that's the same as anywhere and anybody. So as we mentioned, you've raced in Class 5 for most of your racing life. Are there any other, I mean, you mentioned that, Class 7 would be, you would like to have a go in, but are there any other classes out there you'd like to have a go? I do believe you sampled open wheelers as well, which aren't too much different now to Class 5s and 7s, seeing as how there's not much bodywork. You had a go in a Class 9 once, but are there any other classes out there that you'd like to have a go in?
Yeah, well, I'd love to have a go in a Class 7. Whether I'd actually jump in and actually buy one and keep one for myself, I'm not sure. To be honest, I really enjoy Class 5. There's really competitive racing in the class now. If I was to go, I think I'd probably sway more towards the Class 9s maybe as well. Yeah. Having that one spin, I think in Anthony Payne's and Kelly Payne's car back in a few years back. I absolutely loved it. And like you said, it's not that much of a difference to driving the Class 5 now, except because obviously you can see the wheels.
Yeah. I mean, you can see obviously a bit more. There's not much of a mini left, is there, on the cars now? But no, you're certainly still enjoying Class 5. You look like you enjoy the Class 5 when you're out there. I mean, I got one or two pretty decent sideways shots of you a couple of years ago. So yeah, it certainly looks like you enjoy where you are, and that's what it is. There's no point in, I mean, yes, Autograss is still a hobby at the end of the day, and a lot of people forget that. So if you're not enjoying it, then you've got to look at other options. But no, it's great to see that you're still enjoying it as much as you did what was 15 years ago this year. So it's great that you are still enjoying where it is. We're going to step away from the racing side because, as we mentioned at the very, very beginning, as we say, not so many people may have seen you, but they've certainly heard you, because you was one of the people which got the Autograss All-Stars project off the ground. And it was your good self and Gareth, which not sure how much courage you needed or encouragement to get in there, but you stood in a packed beer tent and sung out the song which you was going to be working on. So I mean, I spoke to Gareth on our chat with him about this, but just briefly then, from your point of view, how did this all happen? I mean, it went from being nothing. I mean, we didn't know who could sing, who couldn't. You wasn't expecting the amount of support that you would get, I'm assuming, to who would actually step in and throw themselves in the voices to get in on this project. But it turned into quite a big thing. I mean, not everybody gets in the UK charts with a song, do they? So, yeah. I mean,
enjoy that you said that.
I mean, so where did it stem from? How did it begin? And just obviously in small note form, what were the emotions of this, and how did it all come about?
Yeah, I think Gareth gave you sort of the beginning of it with him and Sue speaking about it. I wasn't on board straight away. Sue came up to me, and I didn't really know Sue back then. She came up to me in Stroud, I think it was the Bass round in Stroud a few years back, about, just the year before we did it, and said that they'd had this little idea. Gareth had sort of warned me that she might come up to ask if I was interested in helping out. The reason being, obviously, I've done a lot of work with choirs and stuff over the years, and that the route they wanted to go down was sort of a CD route. And I'd done a bit of work with different people over the years, sort of recording CDs and things as well for different choirs and stuff. So yeah, I said, yeah, I'm more than happy to help out. But obviously at that time, at the beginning, had no idea what to expect, because we know everybody's into Autograss, but would they actually want to sort of step out of their comfort zone that much and put themselves forward to sing? So between that meeting and then obviously the Cumdee Nationals in 2017, when we announced the project, we had massive planning ideas and loads of communication back and forth to put everything into place. And then I think Susan might have had one of her brainwaves and suggested that maybe, because we're asking people to sing, maybe we should sing in the beer tent as a sort of, look, if we're willing to do it, then maybe you're willing to join us as well.
Oh, yeah, so just throw you on the spot there.
I tell you, I've sung in some places, but I have never ever been that nervous, because obviously when you go to a concert to sing, or you're singing in a wedding or something like this, then obviously people have wanted you, they've asked you to come there to sing. Nobody asked us to go sing in the beer tent at the Nationals on the Saturday night, if you know what I mean. So,
no, I mean, the thing is, you've got to get everybody to actually be quiet to let you do it. Yeah. It's not the ideal place to do it, really, because I mean, at that time of night it's already quite hot in there, and the drink's obviously flowing, and people are already quite merry. So and then next minute there's these two voices chiming in, and fortunately it went well.
It did, thank God for that. Yeah, and to be fair, it was an awesome evening between everything. That was the launch night of the whole project. And as a result, we had 100 or so people interested in taking part, which none of us really expected. We were hoping to have like 20 or 30 people willing to take part. And then when we knew we had that many people, we were having ideas. Sue and Gareth, I think, had discussed the sort of songs that they wanted to do. And obviously Michaela and Kate were on board with the planning sort of side of things as well, between everything. And we were all discussing what to do. And then Sue's quote from the evening of the announcement was, "This isn't going to be no tin pot karaoke in somebody's front room. This is going to be a proper proper job of it." And we were determined to try and make a good job of it with however many people were interested in taking part, really. So we put things together. We put some recording tracks together for people to practice, and then they did, thank God. And we came to a rehearsal in Walsall and put everything together, and then recorded in Llangennech. And well, the rest is history, I suppose. Then, because we were absolutely overwhelmed with how it all turned out in the end, and obviously little projects have come from that since, especially during the lockdown and stuff, with our sort of digital choir sort of project as well, just to keep people going and to give people something to do. And from the videos that were being sent in, it was looking like the families and things that took part in some of those were having a whale of a time taking part in them as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to obviously do something out of the comfort zone, and the response was obviously amazing with how people did get involved, because it can always go one of two ways. It'll either work or it'll fall flat, and nothing will happen of it. But yeah, it did, and it continues to do so. As you say, you did the lockdown single as well, which looked to do well. It's probably too early to say, but is there anything further you're looking to do with the project, or
the Autograss All Stars sort of organisers group is still ticking over now and again. People do still have little ideas that we might be able to do sort of in the future, or at that time when we start talking about things again. So we're always discussing little things that we might be able to do, especially during times like this when people want something just to cheer themselves up. There's nothing officially on the cards at the moment, but you never know, something might crop up and we'll think, we'll go for it. But we'll see. We'll see how things pan out.
Yeah. What if, I don't know what route you could go down, but obviously you've done music. Is there another way of doing something? I don't know.
Answers on a postcard. I'll let you come up with the ideas and we'll see what you can do.
I'm not very good at being an idea machine, but it's certainly exceeded expectations in more ways than one, and it's obviously great what everybody did to work together on that. Finally then, because we're pretty much, I'm running out of notes. You've done probably more in the sport than you've realised, just by reliving it tonight. But we look to the future. Yes, it's bleak in some ways, but what do we think the future holds for yourself on an Autograss point of view? You sound like you're happy where you are. You've got a car which you enjoy racing every week when you can, obviously. Is that where we're looking to see you for the next few years, at least, in Class 5?
Yeah, I'd have thought so. Like you said, I'm enjoying it so much at the moment. Yes, to be able to continue in the same sort of way, really, and keep knocking on the door of maybe getting into big meeting finals and possibly now and again maybe a trophy position would be awesome. But that's not the be all and end all at the end of the day. It's all about the enjoyment, like you keep saying. And as long as I'm enjoying it, then I'll carry on doing it. And it's the same for a lot of people, I suppose.
Yeah. So, no, it's been absolutely fascinating to talk to you, and fantastic at the same time. I've learned something about you. I hope you've enjoyed just going over some of your Autograss life. Just obviously before we wrap it up, is there anything you would like to say to those who will watch this? Obviously, there's people you've not seen for months, a year plus, which I'm sure you would love to just have a chat and a drink with again. Is there any message out there you want to send to anybody before we close it?
Just to everybody, isn't it? I'm sure we'd all say the same sort of thing. I hope we can all sort of gather again soon, and hope everybody's okay and keeping safe. And let's hope it out of this mess as soon as we can now and get everything back to normal, isn't it? But I hope everybody's all right more than anything else, yeah. And thank you to everybody who helps me, especially with my sort of side of Autograss and everything to keep me going as well. I can't thank everybody enough.
No, brilliant. Anything in Welsh?
Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd am wrando. Os ydych chi wedi treu'r amser I wrando, gobeithio gallai gweld chi gyd o gwmpas y cae ras o ryw bryd cyn hir. Diolch yn fawr.
I have no idea what you said, but I got a thumbs up, so we'll take that. Lewis Richards, it's been amazing to talk to you. I hope you continue to enjoy whatever Autograss brings for you. Ultimate respect and brilliant for what you're doing, obviously continuing with work and helping obviously the people you obviously work with daily. Yeah, well done for what you're doing, and keep that up as well. And hopefully we'll see you in an Autograss field once again, doing what you enjoy, doing what we enjoy. And hopefully we'll get a few more photos of you as well, going sideways into the corners. That's another interview wrapped up. Again, Lewis, can't appreciate it anymore. You came to me and said that you're happy to do this. I'm not sure how happy you was before we started, but I'm pleased you did it. And yeah, I've learned something. I hope everybody enjoys it as well. I'm Russ from GrassChat. That is the end of yet another GrassChat. my guest, Lewis Richards. Once again, thank you so much. Yeah, that's it. This will be up very soon. And take care, everybody, and we'll see you all soon.